Hello?
I mean, like, mouse is moving, so his mouse is moving, so that means he's here.
Oh, you can actually see my mouse cursor in Zoom sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I keep thinking that you cannot see my mouse cursor, but okay. The class is going to begin in less than 1 minute, basically.
Oh, I thought we were starting because you already got the thing ready.
Almost. I mean, we got like less than 30 seconds.
What are we gonna be doing today? Python?
Yep, we're gonna talk about web server. Okay, so let's just start the class now. So hello everybody, welcome back to another introduction to web development with Python and JavaScript. So today what we're going to do is we're actually going to start and developing using web server to create a dynamic web application. Okay, to create some dynamic web applications. And so now before we begin, let's just do a quick recap what have been learned so far. So we learned about HTML and CSS and JavaScript. They're pretty cool, but they're kind of boring as well because like you cannot like really like dynamic rendering stuff. So like you cannot create a authentication system. There's no way to create an authentication system since there's no way to store user data, no way to store the username nor password. But how can we do that? Well, now it's time to talk about server-side programming, which is a programming language that we introduced yesterday on Monday, which is Python. So now I'm going to use Python for using Python and using some external module and libraries to developing our own dynamic web applications and later deploy to the internet. Okay, so let's just do it by show of hand. So raise your hand if you have any like code editor installed, because it's going to be different now. So, raise your hand if you have the code editor installed. So raise your hand if you're not using Replit. I just want to take a look. So 2 people didn't use Replit. So okay, let's see. How many people is not using Replit?
I'm sorry, I was raising my hand because I do have a editor.
You do have an editor. Adam? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so
What is
still a
an
lot of
editor?
what?
What's an editor?
So a code editor essentially is where you can write code on your own computer, not on the Replit. So the reason I did introduce that earlier because I don't think like Replit can load, like we cannot, since we're starting moving into like more, you use PyCharm, yeah, sure. So then we're moving more to professional side. Replit going to soon cannot handle it anymore. And then, so that's why I'm asking how many people has code editor installed. So it would be great if you guys can get the code editor installed, but it doesn't. You don't have to. But so from now on, when we talk about deploy, we're not going to use Replit to deploy anymore. We're going to use Heroku, which means you have to like download and upload different files essentially. That's going to be a little bit complicated if you're using Replit, but it's fine if you're writing code basically. All right, so now if you're using external code editor, first let's go ahead and open up, and then first let's go and create one file called app.py, the Python file, and requirements.txt. And inside, just type Flask with F is being uppercase. All right, so just to create these 2 files, don't write anything yet in app.py, but in requirement.py do write Flask with F capitalized, and then raise your hand after you're finished. Same for if you're using Replit, you just need to create a Python Windows, a Python REPL, and you don't have to create requirements.txt. You don't have to create requirements.txt. You are using Replit, just create a app.py. But if you're using like a local editor, do make sure you have a requirements.txt, and inside of it, type Flask with F capitalized. Visual Studio Code, that's the software I'm using.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm using Spider and it doesn't have a text file.
You cannot create a text file? Like,
I don't think so.
okay, well, that's kind of, to be honest, that's kind of stupid. But then try to use Replit instead. I never used Spider before, so I cannot help you with that. I think like every code editor should at least be able to create some like TXT file. They should create whatever they want. But like PyCharm, I think that you can create HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but I'm not sure. The reason I'm using Visual Studio Code it's because it's not like specific for just for Python development. It's for general programming development. So
I have a question.
yes, Jeffrey.
So like, how do you do a Python thing in the Visual Studio Code?
So basically, if you hover over here or somewhere, you should see this icon. It says new file. Okay. And then if you click on it, you should be able to type a file name.
It doesn't show me a new file.
It doesn't show up. Okay. Let's see.
Wait, is text file actually like a file? Because I just like
It's
renamed it to.
just make sure you have the same name, like exact name. Okay. How about this, Jeffrey? Could you share your screen?
Okay.
Could you share your screen really quick? Because I want to get like everything set up before we move on. Because like this is going to be a little bit complicated.
Is this how you share? Yeah. So it's like you go here.
Yep. Okay, I have to open a folder first. That's usually what you need to do first.
And what do you open?
Just create a new folder somewhere.
Or just a random folder?
Yeah. Like,
I'm gonna kick this one.
okay.
Select.
Yep.
And then
And-
it.
Yeah, now you can see if you hover over it.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, now you can create a new file.
And then you do like what? Okay.
And then you can, I'm gonna share my screen.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
All right, thank you. So type these two files, app.py and requirements.txt. I'm gonna give you like 1 minute. Again, if you're using Replit, don't create requirements.txt because Replit is a little bit different.
How do I delete all of these? Wait, why does it say like print hello world?
What?
And then, oh, just get rid of that.
All right, so is everybody ready for, if you're using like a Visual Studio Code, are you guys all ready to move on?
And then it's requirements. Okay.
Yeah, requirements.txt. Okay. Then after you create a file, what you need to do is, you only do this if you're using like external code editor. So in the Visual Studio Code, I'm not sure could you see it, but along at the top, it should say terminal, and then click on that terminal tab and then click on new terminal. And then you should be able to see there is a bottom part here. It's a little bit weird. It's not exactly like the contents, but this is a terminal. We'll be using terminal as well. It's basically similar to JavaScript console, but more general purpose. All right, so have everybody set up yet? So is everybody ready to move on? Okay, so I'm gonna assume everybody's ready. If you haven't, if you're just to like yell at me to say I'm not ready yet or something. But if nobody says anything like that, we're just going to move on. Again, if you're using Replit, don't create requirements.txt. I think if you create that one, it's gonna make it even harder. All right, so now this step is only for, again, it's only for if you're using external code editor. In here, what you need to type is pip. Okay, you need to type pip, and then you make sure you see stuff like this, comments like this. If you see something like pip command not found, then that's going to be even trickier. So I recommend you to move to Replit instead. But if you're using extra code editor, make sure you type pip, and then you see lots of content like this. And then what you can type is pip install -r requirements.txt. Okay, I'm gonna pose that comment here. That way to write in terminal only if you are using external code editor.
How do you do the pip thing?
How do I do what?
How do you do the pip thing?
Pip, did you create a terminal yet? Make sure you create a terminal.
I
Yes.
made a terminal and it like says Windows PowerShell in it.
Yeah. And then in here, just type pip. So first type pip first. Make sure you don't see a warning says pip not found. Then you can type pip install -r requirements.txt and just send that into the chat windows as well. Only do this if you're using external code editor. Don't do this if you're using Replit.
How do you the pip no, but like how do you do the pip thing?
You just type pip, pip.
It says pip not found.
It said pip not found.
Like it's not recognized as the name of the function script file.
And that's probably when you install Python, there's something wrong with it. So try to use Replit instead. Sometimes that happens. Try to use Replit instead for that.
I'm installing Python. Is that what you have to do?
Well, you haven't installed Python yet. You need to install Python.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you need to install Python. Like go to python.org to actually install Python, and then pip should come with Python. And then make sure you install make sure you install at least like Python version 3.6 or above.
3.8.5 is that?
Yeah, that will work. But if you have this and then you can run this, okay, you can just press enter or return on your keyboard, and then it should show you a bunch of output, and then it should work. And then hopefully install all the stuff for you. Since I already installed this Flask module we're gonna use, I'm not going to reinstall it. But if you haven't, make sure you install it.
It doesn't really, it just stuck. It doesn't let me install it.
It doesn't. Okay, if it's like, if there's a freeze in there, I mean, pipe does found it. So if you wait a little bit more time, probably work. Yes, Farah.
It works now.
Okay.
What exactly do you type in the terminal?
What do I type in the terminal?
Pip.
Yeah.
The
No,
pip install
it doesn't work.
-r requirements.txt.
It says
And
select.
then what do you do?
It says select Python
Interpreter. What's your option?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's weird. Okay. Well, I really if you have any error, try to using Replit instead.
Well, I'm gonna.
But because there's some error that I cannot really help you because for the time being. Var, do you have any other questions?
Yeah. So after you type pip install subtract r requirements.txt, what do you do?
Press enter or press return on keyboard.
Oh, because on Replit I got a syntax error. Do you want me
Yeah.
to share my screen?
Yeah. Don't type this in Replit. Don't type this in Replit.
Pip does not work.
If it doesn't work, try using Replit instead. And then don't type this if you're using Replit.
I installed Python, but
Pips do not work.
I don't know how to use if it's in there. I don't even know if pip is in.
Okay, that's kind of complicated. Try to using Replit instead. If you have any problem just using Replit instead of try to figure out because you will most likely have some error. If you're using Replit, then what you do just create app.py. Create this file and that's it.
Okay,
Don't do
thanks.
anything. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so since we spent enough time, now what I will do is we'll say from Flask, import Flask. So now it's like everybody is doing the same thing. Now just type from Flask, import Flask. So if you're using Python for moderately a lot of time, you probably know this import statement. So basically, we're talking back to API again, or application programming interface. So basically, create our own web server is hard. So now what we're doing is we're using somebody else's code. And then we can use that code to help us to build our dynamic website, basically. All right, so we're typing from Flask, import Flask, and then make sure your capitalization matters. So first Flask is all lowercase, but second Flask, the F is capitalized. It's basically saying you basically install this module, and then in this module, and then here you're trying to import a class, and then we are going to set that class up in just a little bit. So type this now, even if whether on Replit or a code editor. All right, so then if on the code editor, what should happen is you can run Python 3 app.py. And if you type this, what you should see is nothing print out on the screen. You will see any sort of warning or error. That means either you didn't install this module correctly or you didn't install Python correctly. If you are using Replit, just click on that run button. Click on that run button. You are using code editor, type Python 3 app.py in the terminal. Okay.
Pip still doesn't work.
Go try using Replit instead.
Wait, do you have to have pip though?
Yeah, you do. Because you need to use a library. So you,
Can I share my screen?
yeah, sure.
So where do I type it? In here?
Yeah, type pip. Just type pip, P-I-P.
P-I-P.
All right, press enter. You didn't install it correctly.
But it says
Could you type Python instead? Could you type Python instead?
Python.
Elika, sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Okay, so if it said like around a bunch of line when you're using pip, then that's correct. And then you can run Python 3 app.py, which you should see absolutely nothing print out. And yeah. Oh, you're using Replit? Yeah, same thing. Yeah, you just click on run button instead. Pip not found. You do have Python installed, which I'm not sure why pip is not found. If possible, could you try to Google it first? Could you try to Google it first? So probably that will be
No.
Maybe try Google it, because I don't know why it didn't install for some reason like that. Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to keep sharing my screen, I guess. Let's see. So now if you run this, and then if you run Python 3 app.py, you should see absolutely nothing comes out. If you see anything comes out, that means there's some error happening. But if you see nothing, then that means it's correct. Let's see, chat. You don't need to download.
It works. The pip works. Yes, finally.
All right, nice. So
That's
yeah, I mean, setup. That's what I should use to Replit, but Replit doesn't work when I have Zoom open. So it seems like keep loading for a long time. So I just use this code editor instead. But so you don't have to set up any environment when using a browser.
It says like from does not work. From.
Okay, make sure you're writing it in the Python file, in the actual Python file. Then to run this Python file, you can type python 3 app.py, or if you're on the Replit, you can just type, you can just click on that run button. Can you copy the code from Replit? Then let's see. The first time I ran from Flask, import Flask, I saw some white word in the terminal. Then run the code again, and the terminal didn't print out anything. No, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. Replit works differently, and if you see no errors, then that means it's fine. Can you copy the code? Are we supposed to? No, you shouldn't make a requirements.txt in REPL. Yeah. The first time I run from Flask, import Flask, I saw some white word. All right. Yeah, Kessler.
When I used REPL, it just said error. It just says error pip is not defined.
Okay.
Can you share my screen?
Let's see. Error pip is not defined.
It says error.
No, wait. Are you typing pip in the terminal? You're typing pip in the Wait. Are you using Replit?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't type pip in Replit. Just type this line of code in Python, and then click on that run button. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Replit works differently.
Oof. Now it just says unexpected identifier at.
Yeah. Did you type pip anyway? Don't type pip anyway if you're using Replit. Can I paste a link? What link? Okay. So does everybody get this set up? Because this is like the most difficult thing, and rest of it is easy. Lucas, what link should I paste? What link?
Oh, never mind. I got it.
All right. Nice. Okay.
I want to do the app that you're doing. How do I go to app.py?
You need to create a file. So are you using Replit?
I want to switch over to the other one, the Visual Code Studio.
Okay, Visual Studio. Do you have the Visual Studio Code downloaded?
Yeah.
Okay. I would suggest you to remain on Replit, but if you want to, first you need to open up a folder into the Visual Studio Code. Then hover over at the top. You should see where you could create a new file when you you should see this document, and then click on it, and you should be able to type your file name there.
I'm still stuck. It keeps popping up errors whenever I do something.
Okay.
I'm following the instructions, but still there's many errors.
You are using Replit.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just going to do a Replit demo here because I'm pretty sure there shouldn't be that much error. Let me go ahead and do a new share here. Okay. So create a Python REPL. So just a sec. Okay, so create a Python REPL. Here does say from Flask, import Flask. Okay, and here click on run. The first time you should see stuff like this, the first time. And then if you type again, you should see nothing. That's what you should do in Replit. Okay, you should only create app.py or main.py, whatever it is. Just make sure you have a Python file.
It's working now.
All right, good. From it said from is not defined, Jeffrey. Wait, what?
I can only see half of your screen.
Okay, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code because Replit doesn't work stably. So
It says like unable to import Flask.
Yeah, mine too.
are you guys using Replit or code editor?
We're still using REPL.
I'm using the Visual Studio.
Okay, I'm gonna solve one by one. If you're using Replit and if you see the instruction, I didn't get any error, not an import error, so it should be fine with you. You shouldn't type anything. So that's only like if you're using Replit, this should be the only actual line of code that you created, basically. Okay. So if you're using external code editor, and if you type this in the Python file, and you run this Python file, you shouldn't see like from is not defined because from is a keyword. It should define in like Python interpreter itself. You shouldn't define from.
But it has like a red underline under.
Oh, forget about that. Try actually execute the file. Like type Python app.py or Python whatever your file name.py, and then see if you get any errors.
App.py. Just gives me another like new like. Then I have to type it in again.
Okay. Like set everything up is pretty hard. Like when I start using Flask, it takes me like 2 months just to get my computer install Python and install pip and actually install Flask before writing like any single line of code yet. Flask is really complicated. Like, but install Flask is actually the most complicated part. But have everybody get it to work? Make sure your code is something like this: from Flask import Flask. First F is not capitalized, but second F is capitalized. And then let me send to chat. Okay, it should be something like this. Can everybody get this set up? Is everybody good? Like no errors?
Yeah, I set it up.
I have lots of errors.
Okay. Do you mind if you copy and paste error into the Zoom chat?
What?
Could you copy the error to the Zoom chat?
Well, it just says from Flask, import Flask, and that's what I typed. And there's a red underline under.
Could you execute the file?
How do you execute a file?
Like type Python 3 app.py in the terminal.
Python 3 app.py.
There's a space between 3 and A. Or type Python app.py.
Yeah, that's what I did. And it like, wait, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
it's like this thing. It has like,
Yeah, forget about it. It's fine. I don't know what's happening to your interpreter, but I see you execute the file and I think it works. So forget about the error. Sometimes that happened to me as well. Just ignore the error. It doesn't matter.
okay.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any problem? Okay, I'm gonna assume no problems because nobody said anything. Okay, so the second line we need to type is app equals flask parenthesis, and inside of the parenthesis is underscore name underscore. So there's two underscore here, two underscore on each side. Basically what this line is doing is it to get the module of it. So it's get the current module to create an app. So the app is where the code will actually be. Where the app is, we are initialize a new class that we can later use to create our own our web server, basically.
Do you run the code after that?
You don't have to. If you just run from Flask import Flask with no error, then this code should work. If you want to, you can, but it shouldn't give you any error. Okay. And then what we can type now is something a little bit cryptic. It's called a decorator. It's basically you use a function that's predefined to us. So we can say at app.route. And then here, let's just write in type quotation mark with the index. And then under it, we'll define a function. We'll define index for our first route. And then for now, let's just return hello world.
Could you go a little bit slower? I'm still coding.
Okay, yeah, I will pause here for just a sec. And if you are using Replit, how about this? Just everybody add this at the end. Actually, no, we don't need this. App.run. Okay. So after at the end, make sure you all have this line as well. And I'm gonna wait here to get everybody catch up first. If you cannot catch up, feel free to just let me know. So go a little bit slower. And then if you're ready, please raise your hand so I know I can move on.
But my from is still underlined.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened. But I don't, if you want, you can close it and reopen it. Sometimes that works. But yeah, don't worry about it. If you can run the file, then don't worry about it. That interpreter is a little bit stupid.
I have a question.
What?
Whenever I run that code, the terminal is blank.
Oh, it works. It works now. Oh, it doesn't work No, it doesn't work anymore.
The terminal is blank. So basically now what should happen is if you type Python 3 app.py, it should show some text here.
Oh.
If you add this line. And then if you're using Replit, just click on the run button. See, chat message. Your terminal is still blank. I would recommend you. Vera, are you using Replit or a code editor?
I'm using Replit.
Then just click on run. I'm pretty sure this should give you something.
My terminal is blank though.
Okay, let me take a look.
Do you want me to share my screen?
No, it's fine. What is before underscore app.route? Nothing?
Yeah.
Or you mean like at app? But okay, let's take a look how Replit works. I should just really use Replit instead. But well, for me, when I run a Replit, here's what happened. Here's what happened. It's like a bunch of information here, and then we got a contents here. That's what happened to me when I run this. So it should work for all of you as well.
Oh, should I share my screen?
I mean, if you follow the instruction, you shouldn't see any error. So.
My thing works, but my screen it says my screen doesn't show 172.18.0.1.
Okay.
They show.
So do you have a? Okay, yeah, it's fine. Just make sure you just have some port number here. So just have a URL here. Like I said, http://0.0.0.0:5000. Feel free to use that. Or you can use other hosts as well. Oh yeah, if you're using Replit, yeah, that's like 172.18.0.1. Yeah, if you're using Replit. Okay, gonna share back. So is everybody ready?
Yeah.
I
now it
just
works.
posted my issue in the chat. So there was a document with a sad face.
Document with a sad face. Okay, so there should be some text, right?
It says
Not found or something?
this is a development server. Do not use it in a production deployment.
Okay.
And then it says, and it's restarting, and there's a debugger.
Okay. Could you see the screen? So could you share your screen to us? So I can take a look at that. Oh.
This is my screen.
How about this? Okay. Let's see. Click on where I'm drawing. Okay. Click on here. This symbol. Yeah. Click. Yeah. Okay.
It says it can't reach my REPL.
I don't know what's that happened. Try to refresh the page. No problem. Okay, so after 40 minutes, we get everything, like most of the stuff set up, I guess. But is everybody ready to move on? So does everybody see when you visit, whether you're on your own computer, where for now I'm just going to reference to local machine, whether you're on local machine or Replit, you should be able to see hello world. So I'm just going to open up my browser preview here. And then in here, I'm just going to type this. And then you should be able to see hello world here. And there is also a thing, if you are using your local machine, note that this is only accessible on your own, whatever device you're working on. So it will not accessible by any other machine. This is only for you. So like if I go to like, probably I'll have like 0.0.0.0:5000. This is a local port. It's only for development purpose.
Where is the like browser preview?
A browser preview, you need to install that extension. So if you see like click on here, extensions, and then in here just search browser preview, basically.
I use my local machine, but it doesn't work. I can only use 1.7.
I cannot hear you clearly. Could you repeat that, please?
I typed in, I'm using my local machine, but I typed in 0.005,000, and it doesn't show. I had to use the 127.
Are you using Replit?
No, I'm using PyCharm.
Okay. Look at the line I'm highlighting right now. What does it say? Does it say running on http://0.0.0.0:5000?
Yeah.
Yes, it does say that.
Yeah.
Okay, then if you just visit on your browser, it should be able to show it. Because if you have this, and I mean it's running on this, like your link here, you should be able to see it. As far as I think, if you don't, but it's different, but it still begin with HTTP. Just like copy like this part of the link, and then paste it to a browser, basically.
Yeah, that still doesn't work.
Okay, does it work?
No, I have to use 127.0.0.1.
Yeah. As long as work is fine. So just make sure like it matching here, I guess. Like 127.0.0.1 is like the default part. Yeah, but
Okay.
all right. Okay, let's see. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
All right, so sorry for the delay. I hope everybody's ready, but okay, let's see one more chat message. Kate, is there any issue with yours? Kate, what doesn't work? It doesn't print anything. Are you using Replit or using the local machine? So whenever you're asking a question, make sure you're talking like what are you using? Basically, you're using REPL. Okay. Are you sure your REPL is something like this? Are you sure your REPL is something like this? You are click on run. So just try to click on multiple times if it doesn't work. Syntax error. Make sure indentation matters. I'm just going to send this code to the chat so you can just copy and paste. Everybody just copy and paste the code. Okay. And then to here. And then click on run multiple times if it doesn't show up. Like try click on multiple times. And then if you're using Replit, at the end it should show up like somewhere. And then in here, you should be able to see it. And then, yeah. Okay. All right. So now okay. So now let's talk about what have we wrote so far. So now notice that we talked about the decorator a little bit. Decorator is basically a function that you could put at the top, begin with the @ symbol. You might see that from email, but that's the @ symbol. This is a decorator. That's what it's known in Python. And then below this, you need to define a new function. Technically, function name can be whatever you want. For example, in this case, I can index. In this case, you can just say hello world, whatever you want. Just make sure it's like valid function name. And then here you can with parentheses with no input. And then in here, you can just type return hello world. So we just return a simple string as an output. So now you can see on the right-hand side, we see hello world. Okay. And then what's happening in the decorator is we're going to put the route. So like every part when the user visits. So for example, if I try to visit route that doesn't exist, for example, hello, you can see it's giving me a not found error. We can later create a hello route. That's basically going to say hello. But if you didn't create this route, it will say not found error or 404. If you see anytime it's an internal server error.
We see only a REPL.
What?
We see a REPL, not your
Oh, sorry about that. Something that happens.
You have to like stop sharing. You have to stop sharing and then share your.
Could you see it now?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that, but yeah. So you can see it said not found here.
Okay.
Not found. If you try to visit a route that doesn't exist,
Mhm.
or yeah. So does anyone have any questions so far?
No.
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 Okay. All right. So now, you can see we said hello world, right? So that's pretty simple, and that's pretty. And then let's go implement a few more route actually before I talk about more. So in here, what I want to type is if I say hello, my name, so Boyuan, and in here I just want to say hello, my name. Okay. Oops. Index. So we need to change the function name as well. So in this case, I'm just name it to my name. All right, let's run this again. And then if I visit this route instead, you can see I saw hello Boyuan here. If I try to create one, let's say at app.route/Jack, and then here I can just say df Jack, and I can just say return hello Jack, and then if run this. And then if we refresh, you can see got my name. And then if we type Jack, and then type click here, and then you can see we see hello Jack here. Okay, so now just return some simple string to represent our output. So does these three route works for everybody? Does anybody have any questions, comments, or issues? Was it like string? No. Okay, so everybody can see how it's three-ish. It's three. Okay, but that's going to get a little bit boring now because since now everybody have different names where most people like I don't want to implement each route for everybody, right? So what I can do instead is I want to be able to like people be able to just type their name in a route. And then what I could do is somehow get whatever the user typed in the route and then just say, hello, this person. So we could do something like that if we want to. And then here is what we're going to introduce you to string to converter. So a converter is basically a way to get to be able to get users input in route. So let's begin with left arrow and right arrow. In here, we can just type star or string. I don't think I remember, is it string or star? You can type string, and then you can type name here. And then in here, in the parenthesis, it's going to take an argument called name. So what's happening here is we are going to say, we want to accept a custom argument. We want to get whatever user typed here using string format, and let's store that in a variable called name. And then the Flask says, all right, and they're gonna pass it to your function. So it's going to pass it as an argument. That's why we have name here. And then in here, what we could do is we can type F in front of the string to use the F string and type name here. And then basically, it's just going to say hello name. And then if I try to run that again. And then if I try to go to Jack, you can say hello Jack. I go to Jennifer. You can see hello Jennifer. And then if I go to Kessler, you can see I got their name, his name, and then hi, and then let me just grab one more random name from the participant, and Henry. I type Henry here. You can see you got Henry here as well. And if we don't type anything, it says hello world by default. It's going to define by the order, basically. But yeah, so I'm going to define by the order.
How do you use the browser preview?
How about this? I will help you right in the break. So now it's time for break. Let's everybody just so now let's take a 10 minutes break time so everybody can just relax a little bit. Probably it's like lots of hard work to just get everything set up. Well, I help people to get like some custom stuff set up. So you guys can have a break real quick. The class will resume in 4:30. Yeah. And then how about this? Yeah. So Jeffrey, could you share your screen? And Kessler, yeah.
Could you still keep your sharing screen, because I just want to finish the code before.
Oh, you didn't finish the code? Okay.
But my code's on too.
You can, Jeffrey, you can do it first. I'm just going to wait.
Okay, thank you for your patience. I'm just gonna paste the code into the chat.
So.
Okay, let's see. Click on this icon. I'm gonna go to you. I'm gonna annotate. Click on this icon. Yep, and then you see the browser preview. And in here, you can change it. You can change it to like 0.0.0.05000.
Doesn't have anything in it.
Doesn't have anything. Let's see. How about this? Could you first remove this empty line at line 6? Yeah, try to refresh again. Okay. That's weird. You have the debug on. Could you press Control C?
Where?
On your keyboard.
Control C.
At here, at the terminal.
Control C.
Okay, then try to run again. Python 3 app.py.
Run. Oh, wait. Python 3 app.py.
Yeah.
Then we do it.
Try again. Let's see. Okay, this is.
What?
I don't know why that happens. You should see something. Oh, how about yeah, you should see something. Could you just open a normal browser and take a look?
Um, it says this site can't be reached.
Are you sure to type http://
0.0.0.5000/.
Could you remove that final slash?
I
Oh my god.
it doesn't work.
Well, well, this is complicated. I don't know why that happened. Is there something to do with from and production? Okay. How about this? Could you do this? Let's see. Sorry, just a sec. Let me search something on really quick. Okay, so all right. I'm going to answer your question really quick. Back. So, does anyone else have any other questions? No. Okay. Okay. Okay, could you run this in your terminal window? It's a shell. Okay, let's see. Could you? Okay, I think yeah. Could you run this, Jeffrey? Okay, so if you see that error when dealing with Replit, click on.
I don't see it. I don't see what you sent.
Okay, here it is. I mean, whoops. Set. So the first one is if you're using a MacBook. Second one if you're using Windows.
Wait, where do I paste it?
So Control C on your terminal first, and then type set. Just copy the second thing I send. Yeah. Okay. Try run again. No, I mean no. I mean no, that's not what I mean. But I mean try to like actually run the file. No Flask. I have a Chromebook using the second one. Production. Wait, actually, Wait, let's see.
It just doesn't show anything.
Environment. Let me see. I can figure. Could you just try using Replit instead?
Okay.
Because like, I don't know why that happened.
On Replit, it doesn't even work either. Because
Our Replit should work without you.
I can't type into the bar.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's a break time we got. Okay. It seems like it's a mess, but okay. Let's just do a quick recap first. I don't know how we can get it that complicated. This is what you should see, okay? This is what you should see if you're running on here on your external coding environment. You should see that basically. If you are using Replit, if you're using Replit, it should be something like this. Should be something like this. Okay, if you're using Replit, if it said, we cannot connect your REPL, click on here instead. Click on this icon, open in a new tab instead. All right. All right. So, and then that should work. It still says so. Do you have all these texts on your terminal? You need to make sure you are running the REPL. So notice that it says stop. So you should see a stop in here instead of run. So if it says run, click on the button, and then click on this open a new tab, and then you should see something like this. Okay. All right, nice. Okay, does everybody's code now works besides Jeffrey's? Because I don't know why his code's
Yeah.
not working. Okay.
I'm just going to say that mine still has a problem. I still
Yeah.
can't find the hello world.
Are you using Atom or REPL?
I'm still using REPL.
Okay, so you cannot see hello world?
Or anything. It still says, we couldn't reach your REPL.
Could you share your screen?
Do you see the problem now?
Okay, here's a problem. First, you have an invalid syntax here. Okay, I'm just gonna annotate on it. So please, everybody beside me, please don't annotate. It's gonna make a screen a mess. So first, remove this line. I don't want to see this line here. And then in here, you need to type the app.route as well. Here you need to, on line 10, you need to type app.route, something like this. On line 10, basically. On line 10, you should type something like that. And then you forget to type a colon at the function. So make sure to type a colon as well. Okay.
Good.
Colon. Type a colon here. At the end of line 11.
A colon at the end. Colon?
Yeah. And then remove the indentation there. So at the app.run, so remove the indentation. Yeah. Now,
Good.
try again. Click on this open a new tab. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yep, it says it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Does everybody else have any problems? Hope not. Sorry about that for much delay. If you are like, thanks for your
I
patience
still
wait.
have problems.
You still have problem, Jeffrey?
Yeah, it just says we can't reach my REPL.
Could you share your screen as well? Because I want to fix everybody's issue before we move on. Sorry about that. Today's class probably just like get everything set up first.
So it's like we can't reach my REPL.
Okay, click on this tab. Click on this. Click on here.
Can you still see it?
Okay, go back to REPL.
What the?
Or just do that, please stop.
Someone's annotating on.
Okay, about this. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Try click on run. Click on run.
Run.
Now opening a new tab. Yeah.
But then, how do I make it hello something else?
So in here, you can type slash. Type slash first. A slash. Yeah. So type your name basically.
Someone's annotating again.
Please stop. Otherwise I will see your name. I think I'm able to see the name who's annotating.
What does hello name mean?
Go back to your code.
Yeah.
And then in here you forgot to type an F in front of the string. So we are using
Yeah.
F string. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And
Now if you try again.
and then I can do that. Yay!
Yeah, I see Jeffrey there. All right, good. Okay. Finally, let me share my screen.
Finally.
Okay. Now everybody's working, right? Just to make sure. Everybody's work, right? Working? Yes? Okay. I don't hear any says no, so I'm gonna assume everybody's code now is working. All right. So this is pretty cool. And then you can see we can actually render some text. It turns out that we can render HTML code directly as a string as well in Flask. So in here, what we could say is, what if I don't want it to render in paragraph anymore? I want to render, let's say, in H1 tag. So what I can do here is type something H1, and then close it, H1. So there is tag there, so it's H1, and then H1 tags, the closing H1 tag. And then if we go to name route, now you can see it's displayed in H1 tag. Okay, so this is one way we can do it. Use add H1 tag there. But does anyone see any problem if we just add H1? Add HTML inside of a string? Does anyone see some issue might happen with that? Anybody see some potential issue if we just add HTML code in the string? Okay. So Kessler, if you want to talk, you are muted, just so you know, because I see your mouse is open. But basically what might happen is if we have huge amount of HTML code that we want to display, it might be take up a lot of spaces. So what we can do now is actually refactor all HTML code to where they belong. And then that is HTML document, or the file that ends up with .html, basically. So in here, now what we can do is go ahead and create a new folder. And in this folder, let's name this templates to store all the code templates. And then now what we could do is create our HTML file. For example, let's create an index.html file. And all of it is just going to be says and then now in here we can say hello world. So it's basically the same thing, but now we are refactor them into the HTML document. So now in this document we can add however many HTML code we want, and then we don't have to worry about like readability in this Python file, because Python file should only store the code that is related to Python. And in here, yep, yes, what?
What folder thing is templates? How do you create?
Are you using Replit or Code?
I'm using like a different. I'm using PyCharm.
Okay, I'm not sure how to create a file using PyCharm. Probably have to Google that on your own. I'm sorry. I'm not sure how to use that in PyCharm. I never used PyCharm before. Sorry about that. But if you're using, thank you. If you're using Visual Studio Code, it's right next to create a file. If you're using Replit, it should also right next to the file. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna give a sec to let everybody create a templates folder. In the templates folder, create index.html, and then the content should be something like this, basically. All right.
How do you do that on REPL?
And how do you like automatically have it doc type HTML, HTML link, and like all of that?
Jeffrey, it starts like that.
Yeah, it doesn't for me though.
Hmm?
Okay, so does everybody finish creating the templates folder and index.html?
Well, technically, I have to type all that doc type stuff.
Oh, yeah, you do. I'm just gonna paste it here so it's much faster.
How do you do this on REPL?
Rumple. Okay, let's see. Basically in here, click on this icon, add a folder, and then here type templates, and then make sure to select this templates file, templates folder, and then click add a file, and call this index.html. And then type exclamation mark, press tab, and now you should get everything set up for you. That's the code. That's how to do it on Replit.
It's still loading.
And then give it time, or if it's loading like a long time, just try to refresh it. Yeah. Okay, so now we create our HTML file, but now how can we actually render the HTML file? Well, we can render the HTML file pretty easily. We just need to type, after we say import Flask, in here you can say render template. Excuse me, render template. And in here, instead of return just hello world, what we could say is render template. And then let's put a template name. Template name is, let's say, what's our template name? As index.html. And then if we refresh, if we go to the slash route, oops, index.html. Okay, it's fine. It's okay, let's run that again. Okay, now you can see it, though it's the same thing, but it's rendered in HTML instead. So if I start,
it's like a syntax error for render template.
are you typing something like this, like exactly?
Yeah.
A syntax error? Could you paste the error to the Zoom chat?
It says,
Like the entire error, just not just syntax error, like the entire error message.
I need to copy. Well, it doesn't let me copy.
It doesn't let you copy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's weird. I guess now how to share your screen again.
It just
How about could you share your screen again, Jeffrey?
just this.
Okay, you need to add a comma between K and R. Yeah.
Know that?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so now you can see we now return an HTML template instead of just a regular old string. So we can return HTML template. So now we can return any HTML document we want to. Okay, basically. So it's pretty good. Now we don't need to worry about like we have to write like tons of code into that in a string and then later return that string. So in here, now what I can start to type is, so now what I want to do is I also need to start, I actually want to also implement another template for a user's name, for the name route that we just created to greet to different name, different user by their name. And then here is the issue. So there is no way technically to let this JavaScript know what content to display. There is still some way that you could use JavaScript, but in the future, now what we're going to talk about is how could you pass the data from the backend, aka Python, to the front end, aka HTML. So we could do that pretty easily. So in here, what we could say is instead of saying create f string here, we could just say return render template and then name.html. And in here, yes?
Can you paste the code?
Yeah, I'll do that in just a little bit after finish this.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And then in here, notice that we actually start to provide additional parameter. And then notice the parameter I provided is called name. And that is equals to name. So this name is an arbitrary argument that's provided to this function, which is this function going to handle, and then later we'll be able to reference it again in the name.html file. And then this name is the variable name here. So this name is this name. So it's the same thing here. And then basically now in the name.html, now what we're going to talk about is Jinja. Jinja is a templating syntax that Flask uses. It's basically how can we render data into our Flask application. So in the body tag here, we could type 2 curly braces. This is used to reference a variable name. And then in here, we can just type name, okay? And then now in the app.py, now if I start to type my name again, or let's just type Jeff here, and then, oops, let's see, is there anything wrong with my HTML? That's weird. Sorry guys, let me take a look why that happens. Okay. I'm trying to restart the server probably. My brain doesn't work correctly today, so sorry about that. Okay, now you can see we see Jeff here. Jeff, and then if I start to change the names to my name, you can see now it start to pass the data to the Jinja or to the HTML file. So does anybody have any question with that? With how Jinja works, like for now, so like before we talk more into Jinja. So notice that we can just like, we can pass the data from backend to front end pretty easily, but just provide some arbitrary arguments here. We can provide like infinite amount of arguments, and then we can say the argument's name that we can reference later in name equals to a variable name or whatever value are referenced to, basically. Okay, so that's how Jinja works. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Can you paste the code for like both of them?
Yeah. Let's see, chat. All right, paste it here. Index.html is here. And name.html is here. Okay. All right, so that's all the code we used. All right, does anybody have any questions so far or no? Okay. Now what we could do is, now let's talk about Jinja. Or like how we can start to talk more to Jinja. So Jinja is much more fancier than you think. Jinja is not a markup language, it's a templating language in backend. It's used for like like all kind of data rendering from backend to frontend, basically. Okay, so now let's start to pass some more information. So in here, we're going to say something here, and then And then let's just say a new route. Here, let's just say /Jinja, okay? And then in here, I will start rendering all kinds of different stuff. So in here, I will just say return render template jinja.html, which I haven't created yet. And then in here, let me just start to pass some information already. So just say, I will go ahead and give you a list. And then this is just going to be equal to 1, 2, 3. Maybe for some reason that we want to pass a list to the front end and let the front end display it. So basically now what we want to do is display a list in each item in the list in its new line. And the length of the list is not given to us. So like we could increase the list length, and Jinja must guarantee to work basically. And we don't know what's in the list, obviously, what elements are in the list. And in here, let's go create Jinja.html. And now in the body tag, we can now write a for loop in Jinja. So to write a for loop in Jinja, because we want to loop through this list and display each element. So in here, what we could say is %. Oops. So let's start with typing. Curly braces, left curly brace, %, space, right curly brace, right curly brace, % right curly brace, okay? And then in here, we could see something like for num for n in list. N is num, and then we're gonna say n if here and for. Okay, so make sure. So here's how to write a for loop in Jinja. Start with this code, and then you can see this line of code is what we use in Python as well. This is the list that we can reference, and this is n, right? This is an n. So the variable that we'll try to keep track of. So we can actually run these code pretty easily in Jinja as well. And in here, let's just create a new paragraph for each of it. And then we can reference a variable using 2 curly braces and then put n inside of it. Put n inside of it. And then, all right, just a sec. I will answer the question in just a sec. And then now if I try to rerun this web server, and then instead of Boyuan, I'm just going to type Jinja, so that's the route name. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 get all displayed using this for loop. Yes, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask me now.
Can you paste the code in the chat?
Yes. I just paste it into the chat. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. So it turns out that we could actually do if as well. So we could do like conditional statements, if statements as well in Jinja. So to create condition, so in here, I'm just gonna pass a variable, and let's call this num equals to 1. So now basically what I want to say is if num is 1, print out on the screen. Otherwise, print out num is not 1. So how can I do that? Well, we could do that again pretty easily using Jinja. And in here, we could just type something like this. we will type curly braces, %, yeah, if num equals to 1, and then I could say, make sure you have an if at the end, and in here we could say, and then I'm just gonna add some custom style so we could see this. Font size 30 pixel. Okay, and here I'm just going to say num is 1. And then now if I go ahead and then refresh this page, which then you could see a text print out in red says num is 1. Okay, num is 1.
Can
you
you
could
paste the code?
Yeah, I'll paste in code in just a little bit. So num is 1. But what if we want to display the message if num is not 1? Then we can use else. We add else here. And then in here, we could just say p num is not 1. And if I refresh, now you could see I didn't see any changes because num is 1. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna post this part into the chat windows as well. Does anybody have any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions so far? Yeah.
Can you paste the stuff for like what you just changed? Because I didn't get to keep up. You were a little too fast.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so I just sent the code to the chat. It's basically like how we can use conditional statements to like and for loop to do stuff, basically. Like we could loop through something in Jinja as well, just like we can do that in Python. Same for conditional statement. We could use conditional statement in Python as well. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and so now what we're going to talk about is, let's see. Okay, converter. I think this is all fine. Okay, so now let's talk about. Let's see, what should I talk about? Let's talk about forms. So different way that we can actually process form. So tomorrow, on Monday, what we'll be start building is the homework for you guys for this week is to create some sort of website that uses Flask. Basically, some simple website. I know I didn't teach a lot of stuff yet, but if you would like to learn more, you can just search Flask documentation, and we'll talk about to build a URL shortener. So shorten a URL from scratch using Flask, and we'll talk about authentication and database as well tomorrow. So now let's talk about forms, different way that we can actually create forms. So in the templates, now let's go ahead and type forms.html. Okay. Actually, one more thing I want to talk about before we write more code is notice that all of our codes have commonality, right? All of our codes have commonality. For example, all of our codes have doc type HTML. We'll have HTML tag. We'll have the same head tag as well. So now it turns out that we can actually refactor all these tags into a different HTML document, and then later we can what we call inherit the HTML document from the layout.html. So now let's in the template let's also create a file called layout.html. And in here, here's basically what we have. So it will basically have exactly the same thing, except in here, we're going to type some ginger code here. We'll say block body. Let's say block main instead. Block main. And then here, let's say end block. So here is where we can inject some of our custom code here after we inherited this layout.html as our template. Okay, so now what we can do in forms is we can write some ginger code as well. So you can type extend layout.html block main and block. So now substitute some of our custom block information here. And then in the block main, what we could type is h1 tag, and then let's just say forms for now. Okay. So that's happening in forms. And now we create a layout.html where of our file being inherited. So we could skip some
post the code.
Yeah, I'll post the code in just a little bit. And then let's go ahead and also create a new route. And then app.route, we'll say /form. And then define forms. Here's just a return render template. Okay, let me go ahead and paste the code. So the layout.html is here. Layout.html and forms.html. Okay. And then I just basically add a basic Flask route, not going to basically return this template when the user visited it. Okay. So now let's go out and refresh the page. Oops, let me start a server actually. I already started the server.
Hey, what about the other route form?
It's really basic, so I didn't copy that, but if you want it, here it is. It's really basic though. Copy, paste, here it is, and send it to the chat as well. Okay. So /form, and now you can see we have forms here. Okay. So I'm not sure do I have time because this spent relatively a lot of time on setting stuff up, but that's okay. I'd rather to get everybody set up first, and then here we'll go ahead and create some forms, and then in here we could type form tag. Let's create a form tag, and in here we're gonna recall that when we talk about HTML, I told you that we would talk about form processing in Flask, and then now we're gonna talk about that form processing. And then in the form tag, we'll take two HTML attributes. First is action, or where should the code actually be submitted to. Second is method, where how should this form be submitted. So where and how, basically. And then stuff inside of the form is what should be submitted, essentially. So where, how, and what. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and talk about each of them. So I'm just going to leave action blank here to an empty string, because if we leave it to empty string, by default, it's just going to plug the URL here. So we just want it to be the same as the URL, but sometimes if you want to make it different, you could type the HTML code, you could type the URL here. So for example, when you submit to a different route, you're gonna say / different route. Okay. And then the method is going to be get. Get. So recall there is two different way. Recall there's two different way of HTML method. One is called get, and one is called post. Okay, get, it's basically you just get the information normally, and then but when we talk about form processing, it's going to display all the information. It's going to display all users' information or users' input into the URL. So let me show what that means. So for example, in here, I'm just going to create a simple input. And probably I'll give a placeholder. And I'll just call this name. And we also need to give another HTML attribute that's called name. It's basically like how we be able to get the data, essentially. So name, and in here, we're going to say name is name, okay? Because we just want users' name. So if we refresh the page, now you can see we got an input field. All right, make sure we have like a name is name here. So we are going to be able to get the information in the backend later. And then here we'll type input type is submit. Basically now we want to submit this to the, so we want to submit this form. And now I can just type my name. And then if I click submit, notice that the URL actually added additional part to it. You can see that I'm able to see my actual information, okay? You could think this is really dangerous, especially when you're dealing with authentication. So like when user actually like submit something, you probably don't want to do that. You probably don't want the URL get displayed at the route. So in case you don't want to display data directly in the URL here, what you could do instead is post. All right, post is going to hide everything, it's not going to display data from the URL. Rather, it's going to send the data encryptedly and secretly to the backend server. Okay. So does anybody have any question regarding to get and post?
It says I can't reach my REPL.
Again?
Me too.
Okay. Did you try everything I just said, like at the beginning of the class, like try to run the REPL multiple times and try to click open in a new tab?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. Hold on. Just share your screen. We don't have enough time to finish everything anyway. Just share a screen.
Oh.
See, it says like.
Okay. Okay, so in here, I'm gonna annotate again. So in here, don't remove this part, including the dot. Remove basically. Remove this part.
This?
Yeah, including the dot.
Okay.
Seeing someone else on a server with a.
Okay, and then try again. Try to run the server again.
I can't. So
Okay. Now try to click open on the new tab. Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
To do forms.
Yeah. No, not that. No. Just say slash form.
Huh?
Slash forms. Okay. Let's see. Okay, just remove your hello route. So go back to your code.
Code.
Just remove this completely. Yeah. Try again. Slash form. Yeah. Now I can see the information displayed at the top. All right. So that's something. That's get. Does your code works now, Kessler? Your replit?
Sorry, I wasn't following up.
Okay, it's fine. Does your replit works now? Is your replit work now, Kessler? Okay, well, now let's go ahead and talk about post. So a post, you can see, let me just do some demonstration here. And by the way, if you don't specify method, it's by default gonna be get. So if you change it to post, and then let's go refresh it here. Then type my name. Click on submit. Okay, so now you can see there is a method not allowed. And that because we define by default our Flask
Can you
route.
share your screen? Like.
Oh, I didn't share my screen. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, so you could see something like this if you change it the method to post, and then it's a method not allowed because by default Flask route doesn't support post unless you otherwise specifically said, okay, we support post, but then it's not going to say it support. So it's going to raise a 405 or method not allowed error. Basically says you shouldn't use this method to access my route, essentially. So how can I fix that? Well, we're going to fix that really quick. So in here, find your app.route that is /form, and we're going to substitute another argument in. We're going to type methods, and then here we're going to type get and post. So it's a list. A list going to have get and post, these two elements. Okay, essentially, get and post. And then now if you try to refresh again, and then if I type a hi, submit, now you can see it's successfully kind of submitted, but we don't see a URL at the end. Okay. Okay. All right. So okay. So now
Wait, can you go back to forms.html?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So now you can see we don't have the information here. So the last thing we'll talk about is how can we actually get the form data. So to get the form data, we're going to import another module from Flask. It's called request. We're going to import request. So add a comma after render template, and then add a request here. And then now what we can type is we could say if request.method equals to post. Basically, we're checking if the method that user submit the form is post. Then what we want to do is let's just return request.forms the form bracket whatever your name attribute is. So probably like name. essentially. So now if we try to refresh, and then let's start to typing my name again, hi. And then now I can see hi get displayed. Since it's sent to the post, and I could use request.form to accept a post request. You can imagine request.form as a dictionary, and the key is whatever is your name attribute that you put into your input HTML elements. So does anybody have any question with that? Does anybody have any questions with how can we accept the form request?
No.
No? All right, so I think now that's all I will talk about today, because that's already a lot of new stuff. And then I don't want to overwhelm you guys. And then, so you guys' homework is to create whatever website that you want to create, a simple website probably. And then tomorrow we'll talk about SQL, and we'll talk about SQL. And then we're going to start build a Flask web application together. And it's going to be a URL shortener. So you'll be able to shorten your URL after you create that web application. But for now, that's it for this class. Thanks for attending. If you don't have any more question now, you can feel free to leave. Thanks for coming. If you guys don't have any questions.
Thank you for teaching.
You're welcome.
Thank you for teaching us.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Put all these
Bye.
files on your
Bye.
website.
Byes and thanks are on your way.
Can you put all these
Thank you.
files on
Bye.
your website?
Could you repeat that?
Can you put all these files on your website? Or
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, bye. Bye, guys.